welcome to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name's Angela. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Rainbow Ange. You can also find an Instagram and a Facebook page for my little yarn shop, which is called Yarn and Yarns. Here on my channel you will find me chatting about my adventures in knitting, crochet, sometimes a bit of spinning and sewing, and also my adventures of being a yarn shop owner. So yeah, welcome back if you are returning, and thanks for joining me if this is your first time. I am coming to you on Sunday. I have no idea what the date is, sometime in January. I am sat here pretending that I'm all organised and raring to go. In reality, I've just thrown a jumper over my pyjamas and you can't see the rest of me, so you'll have to forgive me for that. But I thought I would come by today while we've got some reasonable daylight to chat to you about the second 6 of my projects that make up my crazy 12 cast-ons of Christmas madness. If you watched my video before last, you will have seen that I decided over my Christmas break to cast on 12 new things, just for fun. Most of these are projects that I've wanted to be working on for a little while and I just haven't had time, so I had this crazy notion just to get everything on the needles, and then when things are done they will be done. So for the most part I'll be chatting to you about the projects that I didn't show you last time, mainly because they weren't yet on the needles. I've also got one finished project to show you, and a new project that isn't part of the 12 cast-ons, and also some progress on some of the projects that I showed you last time, just 2. So yeah, I think we'll just get going with all of that. I think I'll show you my finished project first. So I actually cast on a sock head hat as part of my 12 cast-ons of Christmas. I made it a scrappy sock head, using up some of the yarns from my Opal advent calendar. I made 2 pairs of scrappy socks from that calendar. I still had tons of yarn left, so I decided I needed a new sock head. So yeah, it's a really fun project. I just randomly picked out minis from the bag of leftovers and added them into my hat as they came out of the bag. So I haven't made it super slouchy, but I know I will get tons of wear out of it. I haven't yet washed and blocked the hat. It doesn't really need blocking, but I think I will give it a soak. It's made from opal yarn, so obviously that is a bit of a rustic sock yarn if you've used that before. So I think it will soften up a little bit if I chuck it in a Eucalan bath, so that will be happening soon. Actually, it's quite nice and cosy. I think I might wear it for the rest of the video. We'll see how hot I get. I've still got loads and loads of these scraps left. I was thinking about casting on a sock head cowl to use them up, but a lovely friend of mine, Erin, sent me a link recently to a pattern from Hedgehog Fibres. I think it's called Scarfy Thing or something along those lines. So I think I am going to be using the rest of my Advent minis plus a few others to cast that on instead. I'm going to make myself a list of projects that I do want to cast on. I've got a bunch of stuff in the wings that I know I definitely want to do, but as I've cast on lots of projects recently, I'm going to try and set myself a little bit of a rule whereby I'm not allowed to cast anything new on until I've finished at least 2 of my current works in progress, with the exception of commission knits and things that I make for the shop. But any personal projects, I need to get 2 things off the needles. But in theory that means I can cast on something new relatively soon because I have finished my hat. and if you watch my last video, which was more of a shop update video, you would also have seen that I finished a crochet blanket. So that's 2 of my personal whips off the needles, so I think that means I'll be casting on something new just for myself relatively soon. I'm just trying to narrow down what that's going to be. I've got lots of stuff that I want. I might have to think about that later. That might be something fun to do this evening. Okay, so that's it for the finished object. I'll show you my new cast on, which is not related to the 12 cast-ons of Christmas. So this is just a pair of vanilla socks. Now, I made loads of socks over the last few years, and I did that. If you're on Instagram, you may have seen everyone posting their best 9 photos, where you pop along to this website, plug in your Instagram ID, and it tells you which were your most liked pictures from the last year, 2017. And mine were all vanilla sock related, which although they were lots of fun projects, also made me a little bit sad because I make more than vanilla socks. But it was kind of just, yeah, made me think I need to knit less vanilla socks. But having said that, I have a queue of 4 pairs of socks for other people, so commission knits, that I need to get through. So I have cast on the first vanilla sock for 2018. I'm using some opal yarn. This is for one of my lovely regular customers. She picked out the colour, so I'm just knitting away on that for her. She's got relatively small feet, so I've turned the heel, and this first foot should be finished quite soon. I've got my little Dreaming of the Sea progress keeper. That was keeping me company in the sock head hat, but I swapped that out onto these socks when I finished the hat. So yeah, opal yarn. I'm just going to grab the tag. It's colourway 9407. So, and it's from the Opal Energy range, which is a fairly new range of sock yarn from them. So yeah, lovely blues in this colour. So yeah, not much to say about that. I'm knitting those on 2.25 millimetre zings, and I'm hoping to get the foot finished and the second leg done by next Saturday. I've got a group of ladies coming into the shop next Saturday, and they've asked me to show them a few different sock heel techniques. So I'm hoping if I can get down to if I can get this finished and then the leg done, I'll be able to show them a short row heel technique. And I've also got a pair of socks that have been on the needles for ages, and I've got 1 heel left to go. I've put in some waste yarn for an afterthought heel, but I've been holding off finishing those so that I can use that to show them the techniques on Saturday. That one is living in a lovely project bag from Loop and Bar. So yeah, vanilla socks. Okay, so I think I will show you the progress that I've made on 2 of the first of the 12 cast-ons of Christmas projects. So these projects you would have seen if you watched the last video. And these are the 2 that now I've got all 12 projects on the needles. They're the 2 that I've gone back to first. So the first project is the At Dawn shawl, which is in Interpretations Volume 1, patterned by Johi Locatelli, made in these nice vibrant yellows. I have chosen some yarn from Yantan Tethery Yarns, and this is a kit that I got just before Christmas. It came with this gorgeous project bag by Emma of Eldenwood Crafts, and the yarn is the 'Tis the Season colourway on Yantan Tetherer's Tweedy base. So here it is. So not huge amounts of progress, but this marker shows where I was before. So I've added another inch or so to that project. Now I am going to be changing this one up slightly. So if you watched the last video, you will have heard me saying that as well as the 'Tis the Season colourway, I was going to be putting in contrast stripes of this which is another of Helen Tweedy base in the pavement colourway. But I put one contrast stripe, and actually it's kind of where the marker is, and you can't really see it. I don't think it stands out enough against the "'Tis the Season." I'm not going to unpick, but I am just about to add in a second contrast stripe. So this shawl is knit in short rows, so you do wedges of the main colour separated. If you can see, it's quite skinny at this end, and then it's a lot wider up here. So you separate those main colour wedges with your contrast colour. So I'm going to add in, I'm going to keep it with the grey, but I'm going to put in this yarn instead. Now, I was lucky enough this week to receive an amazing parcel from my lovely friend Sylvia, who is Rose Garden Cottage, and she tagged me on a picture of some yarn that she had in her stash, which is a lovely orange sparkly yarn, and as you know, that orange is my favourite colour, and she asked would I like to receive that yarn because it wasn't the colour that she was going to use. So of course I was not going to turn down some orange loveliness, but she was so generous, and as well as the orange yarn she sent me 2 other skeins, and one of them was this gorgeous Fibre Spates Vivacious 4-ply in this lovely grey colour. It is colour slate. And so I have decided that I'm going to wind this up, and I'm going to add this as my contrast stripe, as I think this solid colour will show up a lot better than the variegated. As much as I love the Tweedy pavement colourway, I think it just doesn't, because it's another variegated, the solid colour will show up and provide that contrast in the stripes. So I'm going to wind that up shortly when I've finished recording this, and I'll be able to add that into my At Dawn shawl. So that's progress on project number 1. And the second project that I have been giving a lot of love to is my Angelica sweater. So this is a pattern by Erica Knight, and it's one of the pattern ranges that she brought out with her British Blue yarn. British Blue 100 the yarn is, and this is a gorgeous short sleeved cable sweater. I'm knitting the back, so the back is not quite as fancy as the front. The back consists of a spiralling rib and then a double moss stitch section. But this is a project that is fairly easy for me to work on. I am just doing the spiralling rib at the moment, so I'm knitting 3x3 rib. It's just the sort of pattern, or the order of the knit 3 purl 3 just shifts every few rounds, and because this is yarn that I stock in the shop, it's one that I can work on in the shop. I think I've probably explained before, when I'm in the shop, if I am facilitating any groups, or if I have a quiet moment and I have time for some knitting, I like to try and knit on things that we have available. So yeah, I have made a reasonable amount of progress on the back of this sweater. So the row counter here shows where I was after my first day of work, so I'd just done that little bit, and now I have added all of this onto the back. So yeah, it is good TV knitting, good group knitting. As I say, it doesn't take that much concentration. It looks fancier than it is though, doesn't it? It looks like it requires a bit of concentration, but it really doesn't. So I think I have got another 2 or 3 inches before I switch to the moss stitch panel at the top. So yeah, I'm hoping that within the next week or so, the back of that sweater will be done, and I'm really excited to get onto the front. So obviously the front with all those luscious cables is where the interest is, and I think this can be a really wearable garment. So yeah, looking forward to getting some more work in on that one. So those were the two projects that I have progressed on, but I am now going to show you, there's actually 7 projects for me to show you, which make up the remainder of my 12 cast-ons. Now the reason there's 7 is because if you remember, if you watched the last video, I was just about to cast on day 6 and I'd cast on one project but it wasn't really floating my boat, so I was just about to swap that out and cast on something else, so I didn't really get to show you project number 6 last time. Project number 6 is my amulet shawl, and it is a pattern by Curious Handmade, and it's a lovely shawl which has some garter sections and some lace sections, and I am knitting it from 2 gorgeous yarns that James brought back for me from a work trip that he took to Seattle last year. So this is my main colour, and then I'm going to use this lovely orange for the lacy contrast sections. So the orange is from Periwinkle Sheep in the Clementine colourway, and the multicolour, can't find the yarn label, here it is from Dye House Yarns, that's the label, and it's in the Eclipse colourway, so Dye House Yarns. And this colourway Eclipse, they dyed especially to commemorate the solar eclipse last year. So I have made reasonable progress on this. So this is just the 1 day's work, my cast on day, and I have managed to get almost all of the way through the first garter wedge. So isn't that yarn absolutely gorgeous? The colours are just, oh yes, love them. So that is where I have got to so far, and as I say, it will only be a few rows now before I'm on to the first lace section, but I think it will be a while before I get back to working on that. This has been the worst part of the 12 days cast on, because these are all projects that I really want to work on. It's like casting them on, working on them for a day, and then knowing that it could be ages before I get back to them. Yeah, I just want to sit and knit on all of the things all of the time. So that's the amulet shawl, and I am keeping that in a project bag that I made myself. This is some very special vintage fabric which came from my gran's stash, which I received after she passed away quite a few years ago now. So yeah, that's project number 6. So project number 7, I did briefly talk about it in my part 1 video, because I had lost my pom-pom anniversary edition, but as you can see, yay, I have found it, which means that I was able to cast on a pair of festoon socks, and that's a pattern by Rachel Coopy, and I've decided to do mine in, wow, look at that, that's really blowing out, super bright pink. I'm not a pink girl, but we had this opal uni colour in the shop, and as soon as it came in I knew it had to be a pair of festoon socks. Now this was the project that I probably made least progress on during my cast on day, but that's okay, you know, some of these things are going to work up more quickly than others, and I just didn't have as much time to knit on this sock the day that I cast on, so I've only got a little sock moustache. So not much progress at all, but it's quite a fun pattern. The sort of complicated cable pattern happens down one side, and then on the back it's just a bit of a rib. So yeah, hopefully when I get back to these, it won't take too long to see a bit of progress. But yeah, as I say, I'm using opal unicolor yarn, and the colour number in case anyone is interested is 5194. So Opal Uni. So I usually knit my plain socks on 2.25, but I decided to go for 2.5 on these. Although it's got some rib, I didn't want the lacy pattern on the front to get too stretched out while I was wearing them. So I've done the 64 stitch cast on, but on slightly bigger needles than I usually would, and hopefully that will work out. I guess time will tell. I'm keeping those in a lovely Japanese knot style bag that was made, my pom-pom magazine fits in there just perfectly, and this was made for me by my lovely friend Lisa. So I shall look forward to getting back to those when I have the opportunity. So where are we at? Project number 8. I cast on a pair of colorwork mitts, and I'm going to be joining in a couple of knit-alongs this year, and a lot of the projects that I've already showed will constitute part of those, but there's 2 year-long knit-alongs that I'm going to be joining in, and the first one is being hosted by Jeanette of the Bookish Stitcher podcast, and she has got the 18 in 18 challenge going on over on her podcast group. So you just declare 18 things that you want to get done this year and work through them, and I've got a list of works in progress and some new things that I want to cast on for that. The second knit along that I am joining in is Eldenwood Crafts. Emma is hosting the Make 9 knit along, so a lot of people, as well as posting their top 9 pictures from 2017, also then started the 9 things that they wanted to make in 2018. That was a post that was going around a lot on Instagram at the start of the year, so I've picked 9 projects and I shall be slowly working my way through those. And then the third knit along that I'm hoping to join in this year is the year-long knit along, which is being hosted by Ellie of the Skein Knits podcast, and that is to make 6 pairs of colourwork mittens in 2018. So just 1 mitt a month is the kind of target for that. So I've cast on my first pair, or the first of my first pair for that. This is a pattern called Somerset versus Norway. I'm not sure if I've got a picture that I can show you. Yeah, I think I can show you that without giving away too much secret sauce. So it's basically a pair of hares staring at a moon, which is really super sweet. So yeah, I've started those. I am for the first time using Quince & Co yarn, and I'm using their Owl base. I'm using 2 colours. The first one is Canyon, and the second one is Logian, I think. Colour 333 and colour 316. I skeined these up towards the end of last year, but didn't actually get round to casting them on. Well, actually that's a lie, I cast them on, but then I ripped out what I did because I wasn't happy with the way it was going, so I cast them back on New Year's Day. And yeah, so there's the first mitt progress on that. As always with colour work, it always looks a tad bit scruffy before you block it out, but hopefully that will block out nicely. And I just need to put the thumb stitches on some waste yarn, and then I can put some heads on these poor little hares. So yeah, hopefully I shall be able to get back to that shortly too. As I say, the aim is kind of to knit 1 glove a month, so that should hopefully keep me on track. I'm keeping those in my little kitty project bag, again another one that I made. So there we go. We are getting there. We've got 4 more projects left to show you. All knitting, no crochet. So yeah, very knit heavy today. So the next project is going to be a sample for the shop. So I think actually I'll probably keep this one aside and start working on this again this week, because I'm fairly confident it's going to grow pretty quickly. So this is from a book by Martin Story, and it's called Easy Cable Knits. So last year we had 2 new books in the shop. The first one was Learn to Knit Cables, and then this is sort of like the next step up. So there's some absolutely gorgeous projects in here. I have got another one of my customers is going to be embarking on that cardigan soon, which, oh, love that, love everything about that, the colour, the cables, the style, lovely. But the project that I am knitting from this book is just a lovely cowl. Just trying to find the picture for you. There we go. It's called the Garter Twist Cowl. It's actually the project that's on the front of the, I don't know why I flicked through. It's the project on the front cover of the book. It's knit from Rowan Hemp Tweed Chunky. So another knit along that I am participating in, one that I forgot to mention, is Amy of the Stranded Dye Works podcast is having a commercial yarn knit along, and I've got quite a few projects that are cast on from commercial yarn. I've got plenty of options for entering that cowl. But this is the progress that I made on the cowl on the first day. So yeah, it grows quite quickly. I'm using the Rowan Hemp Tweed. It's a double knit yarn in the pumice colourway. I've got another ball around somewhere. I need to dig that out because I've not got that much left of this ball. I've got some beautiful stitch markers on here from some reindeer, and I've got a little bottle of glitter, and those stitch markers came from by Miranda May, and Miranda has an Etsy shop, and I've chatted about her yarn in my last video because we are now selling it in the shop. But she also makes beautiful stitch markers. So yeah, that's it, the Garter Stitch Cowl, and again, it's living in another of my project bags. Okay, we have got 3 projects left. Let's try and get through these before you fall asleep. So this next project is a really, really simple jumper, but it is going to take me an age to knit. So I'm knitting it from this book, which is Rowan Valley Tweed, and it's the jumper on the front that I'm knitting, which is called Dern, and it's just a really, really simple sweater. I'll show you. It comes in a round neck and a v-neck, and I think I'm going to knit the v-neck. I ordered a bag of this yarn just to try it out to see if I wanted to stock it in the shop. So it comes like this, Rowan Valley Tweed, and orange is that colour, just, oh, that's everything, everything. And this yarn is just gorgeous, it really is gorgeous. However, I am not convinced that my customer base that I regularly get to come to the shop is going to appreciate this, so I don't know whether I'm going to stock it. It's one of those tough decisions where I absolutely love this yarn, but would I just be stocking it for me? I need to think on it some more. So it's a fingering weight yarn, very rustic. It's spun in the traditional way for making tweed yarns. I am not a small person. This is a very fine yarn, so it's going to take me a while to make a me size garment, even a simple one. But here we are, I've cast on the back. Oh, it's just so gorgeous. It's just so gorgeous. I already have in my head that this might become some travel knitting. At the end of next month we're going on a big trip. James, his sister, is getting married and she lives in New Zealand. So we're off to New Zealand for a few weeks for the wedding and to do a bit of travelling around. And I think this might be the perfect project to take with me because it's very light. It takes me ages to knit a row. It's very simple knitting. So I reckon I will, if I ball up a few hanks of this, that's going to keep me going for the 3 weeks that we're away. So yeah, not really much progress to show on that. It was mainly rib on the day that I cast on, but this represents quite a few hours knitting. We had a very lazy day the day that I cast this on, so yeah, it's going to take me an age to knit this sweater. Oh, but I just love it. There's so many beautiful colours in the Tweedy flex. Yeah. Anyway, enough eulogising about that gorgeous yarn. We have got 2 more projects to discuss. So the next one may look somewhat familiar. If you saw the video where I shared the jumper that I made for James, this stitch pattern will look very familiar. So this is a cardigan that I am knitting for myself. I've started with the sleeves and I'm doing the sleeves in the same way that I did James's jumper, i.e. on separate needles but concurrently. And the yarn is Rowan Hemp Tweed Chunky, and the colour that I've chosen for myself is this lovely reddy colour, which is called Ryoka. And I shall be making the Darby cardigan, which looks like that. And yeah, it's basically the cardigan version of the jumper. So I made the jumper version for James for Christmas, so I'm now making the cardigan version for myself. So yeah, I don't think there's too much to say about that. I have progressed that much on 2 sleeves, so not bad for a day's knitting. The chunkiness of this yarn versus the fineness of the Valley Tweed. Yeah, can I grab a strand of the Valley Tweed? Just really completely opposite ends of the scale, but that's good. You know, this one may get finished in the timescales for Amy's commercial yarn along. You never know. Probably have to start working on that again to be able to guarantee that. Okay, so now on to the last project, and I'm sorry if I've been going on a bit. I feel like it's just been a bit of a parade of mostly uninteresting pieces of rib today, so thank you for bearing with me if you have. So my final project, and I haven't actually shown this on Instagram yet, I got sick on the last day of my 12 days of cast ons. So yeah, I must photograph this and stick it on Instagram, but I am test knitting a sock. Now I have picked some sparkly pink yarn, which is, yeah, a little bit out of my comfort zone, just because it's a very muted, elegant, girly pink, which is just not me. But, you know, I can try. The yarn, I believe, is from Knitting in France, but I might be remembering that incorrectly. It's been balled up for ages because I wound it up for another project, so if I'm wrong I will put something on the screen just to confirm who the yarn's from. But I'm test knitting a sock for Charlotte, who is the wonderful host of the Charlotte and Gus podcast, and this is her banyan leaves sock. It's quite a short sock, so I have knit what I think it constitutes as the sock leg. So it's got this beautiful delicate patterning. You can see the leaf shapes on the sock. I stretch that out a bit. So yeah, I am test knitting the large size. So this is a 72 stitch sock size that I'm test knitting for Charlotte, but I have downsized my usual needles to so I figured that I could find someone who would wear a 72 stitch sock, but then I thought, well, actually I really love this pattern and I kind of want to keep these socks for myself. So instead of knitting on 2.25, I've gone 2mm for the start of the sock, and then part way through the sock she recommends that you switch to the next needle size. So I'm now on 2.25, which is my regular choice for sock needles, but yeah, it's turning out very pretty. I'm just about to do the heel turn, and I need to have these finished by the end of January, so I need to focus on these so that I can get them finished and knit by the test knit deadline for Charlotte. So yeah, that was project 12 for the 12 crazy cast-ons of Christmas. I am so pleased that I did my little crazy task. It's so much fun to have all these projects on the needles, and you know, crazy for me, I have about 4 sweaters on the go. 1, 2, 3. I've got 5 sweaters on the go, so 3 new ones and 2 whips from last year. So yeah, I think they're going to keep me going for a long time. I may never get to cast on anything new for the rest of the year. No, that's a lie. I've already earned 1 new cast on, haven't I? So I think the trick is going to be to keep casting off those small projects and then keep ticking away on the sweaters, and eventually they'll get done. You know, no pressure. They're just for me, just for fun. And so yeah, I think it's going to be a good year of knitting this year. Okay, I think with that I shall wrap up. I've taken up enough of your time already. I have got a sleeping cat. I don't know if I want to show you the state of the floor, but so yeah, I'm off to wind up some gorgeous fibre space yarn. Look at that, lovely. And then I will be able to carry on with my Out to Dawn shawl. So I shall do that for the next hour or so, and then I am going to start planning something new to cast on this evening, I think, as I have definitely convinced myself that I've earned a new cast on by casting off my sockhead hat and my Persian tiles blanket. So that would be me for the rest of the day. Whatever you're up to, I hope you are having fun, and I hope you are managing to get in some time for all of the things that you love. With any luck, I shall see you again soon. In the meantime, lots of woolly hugs to you all, and thank you for joining me.